Here's a fun sewing project for a long winter's day. I made an apron out of men's denim jeans. You can see that I kept the Dickie's pocket and affixed that to the front of the apron. This is a very economical project. All you need is some thread, a sewing machine, which you can even get a used one if you don't want to buy a brand new sewing machine, and an old pair of jeans. I did use some scrap fabric that I had in my stash and pieced together this fun little tomato pocket. I'm a hobby tomato breeder, so of course I have to have tomatoes on my stuff. And these straps of this apron are actually made from the seams of the denim jean. So this also makes it very beginner friendly, as we don't have to sew together big long hollow tubes and turn them inside out. Follow along and I will show you how this is done. I like this apron so much that I decided to make a second one for my husband. So now we have his and hers matching denim aprons. What a great idea for a Valentine's Day gift. Very little cost, just need some time and love. Select an old pair of denim jeans. I happen to have a pair of men's Dickies jeans. Step 1, cut the denim jeans. Start by cutting along all of the seams. Start by trimming along the vertical seams of the denim. Make sure to preserve these seams, as we will be using them for this project. Here you can see a close-up of the seam. Set that aside and start trimming the pocket. Trim the perimeter of the pocket as close as you can to the border. Later on, we will remove the backing fabric of the pocket. Continue trimming down all of the vertical seams. Also trim the horizontal seam on the bottom of the pant leg. The vertical seams have more length, so those will be used for this apron project. You want to trim close to the seam, but not so close that you're cutting into the threading, as we do need to preserve the seams. Of course, I'm cutting around the pockets as snug as I can, as well as the zipper. Once we have all of the seams cut apart, here's what we have in the end. After cutting, you will have 4 leg panels, 2 pockets, and a pile of the seams. Next, we will stitch together the leg panels to make a sheet of denim fabric. I needed to sew 3 leg panels together to get the appropriate yardage for my apron, and I am a small adult female. Step 2. Using wonder clips, clip the panels together to prepare for sewing. Make sure we are right sides together. I will be sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance to attach the panels. In comparison, Matt's apron took 5 leg panels to get the appropriate yardage, and he is a large adult male, so keep that in mind when sizing your apron. When laying out the panels for his apron, I did decide to square it up. As you can see, the panels are not perfectly straight when laying them right sides together. So I took my quilting ruler and squared it up. This will make it easier for me to sew the panels together. I'm a big fan of using wonder clips instead of using pins. For one, you don't poke yourself, and secondly, you don't poke any holes into the fabric. I will link the materials I'm using in the video description. Now that it's squared up, go ahead and finish applying the wonder clips right sides together so it's ready to take to the sewing machine. Here's my apron thus far. You can see that 2 of the panels have been sewn together. There is the seam. And the 3rd panel is wonder clipped and awaiting to be sewn. When sewing your panels together, be sure to use a quality iron and press open the seams. I'm using a Black & Decker iron on the linen setting, as denim is a very thick fabric. I also use denim sewing needles for my sewing machine. This would be US size 16. The thread that I'm using is from Connecting Threads. It's a 100% cotton thread, and the color is literally named denim, so it's a perfect match. All 3 panels are stitched together. The seams are ironed open, the tops are ironed flat, and we're now ready for the next step. The next step is selecting an old apron that fits you well. The key here is that you like the fit of this apron. We will be using it as a pattern. I'm pretty picky. There are aprons that I do not like the fit of, so make sure to use one that you truly like the fit. Next, I am using what I think I would call a tailor's ruler and a white chalk pencil for marking on the fabric. Using the chalk pencil, trace the entire perimeter of the apron. I choose to do a solid line for this marking. In a moment, we will be doing a dotted line for the second marking. Don't worry, the chalk will easily wipe and wash off. Next, using your tailor's ruler, set the line to 1 inch. We will be measuring the entire perimeter with the 1 inch marking. Continue marking 1 inch dotted lines along the entire perimeter. Now the 1 inch markings are complete. Remove the apron pattern. We can now see the solid line and the dotted lines. Next, using a scissors, cut along the dotted 1 inch lines. The solid line remains. In contrast, we have the same thing here with Matt's apron. Panels all sewn together and cut out at the 1 inch dotted line. Consider the aesthetics of the finished product when choosing where to put your seams. For his, I chose 3 vertical seams and 1 horizontal seam placed on the top of the apron. For my apron, I had 3 vertical seams. Next, take that ruler again, this time set it to 1/2 inch. We will be folding under the entire perimeter of the apron by 1/2 inch, folding it inward or under. It really helps to use an iron for this step. In small increments, press down the 1/2 inch with the ruler and follow right behind with the iron. It helps to go in small increments at a time. Try not to be in a hurry, as it's very easy to burn yourself with the iron. No project is complete without a nice badge of honor, some type of injury. Here's a nice little burn from my iron. If you know me, I'm very accident prone. Here's my apron, folded over once and ironed. The next step is we need to do a second fold, folding it in another 1/2 inch. By folding it in another 1/2 inch, the crease will now be on the solid line. After folding it in the second time, you will then secure it with an ample amount of wonder clips. Don't be shy on using the wonder clips. We definitely don't want it to move while we're sewing it. Keep those denim seams. Here we are using them for the straps of the apron. And they're nice and durable. Clip those straps in place with a wonder clip. Same thing with Matt's apron, double folded with ample clipping. Take note of where I've placed these ties. The side ones are actually tucked under the hem. That will be sewn in. The top tie is not tucked under the hem, but rather it is laying flat. Next, we take it to the sewing machine. Looking at my seam allowance, it is less than 1/4 inch. I'm basically sewing along the inner edge, just like I'm hemming a pair of pants. Continue sewing, removing the wonder clips as you go. Once we approach the corner, I'll slow it down and show you up close. Now that we're at the corner, you need to gauge where to stop. Go ahead and stop. Keep that needle down, but lift the presser foot. Now we need to rotate the project 90 degrees here. It's pretty thick, that denim, so you might have to wiggle it around a bit. Once you're straightened up again, check that seam allowance. It's looking good. Now we can proceed forward. Presser foot goes back down, and onward we go. Here's Matt's apron, hot off the sewing machine. Checking all the edges. All these hems are nice and crisp, very clean looking, hot pressed with an iron. Now let's take a look at mine. Here's the apron all stitched together. So we have on the hem, we have a double fold in and stitch to hold that. So we folded it in 1/2 inch and a second 1/2 inch. So 1 inch total, double folded underneath for the hem. I used a denim thread. So the color is very transparent here, blends right in. To attach the side tie, I tucked it under the fold of the hem. And I gave it a diagonal stitch for extra reinforcement. For the top, I just sewed it to the back and sewed an X for extra reinforcement there. On the corners, the bottom corners, since they were rather bulky and they're not mitered, I also sewed an X there as well. On the top corners, I did not sew an X. I just went along the edge. Then I gave it a nice ironing. Next, I would like to apply some pockets from the jeans. So I cut out the jeans from these Dickie's pants and I removed the back fabric. Next, I need to decide where I want to place it on the apron, and then I'll be pinning the pockets onto the apron and stitching them on. I ended up making a tomato pocket with scrap fabric. I did mitered corners on the bottom and a double stitch through the center. The top pocket is the Dickies pocket with the red label to match. For Matt's apron, I chose 3 denim pockets. And here's the finished his and hers denim aprons side by side. What a fun project to repurpose old farm jeans. I hope you give it a try. Leave a comment, and thanks for watching.